So actually, we as a consumer, we don't
Are you
really
aware of the average bill per unit?
You know that's a product. If it's something that you pay which is intangible, for which you expect a service, everybody else is a consumer. Therefore, all of you are kings and queens in your own home with your own throne, and you can sit up and decide and let the business continue to woo you.
Welcome to another edition of Consumer Voice, the platform of CPC that tells you all about your rights as a consumer and how to enforce those rights whenever you feel they have been breached. Remember, you are the king and queen of the consumer world, and you should be so treated. Today, we're discussing 4 major issues: your rights as a consumer, your obligations as a consumer, the power of the CPC, and the complaints as well as redress mechanisms available to you as a consumer. To discuss this, I'll have with me in the studio Mrs. Dupe Atoki, the Director General of the Consumer Protection Council. Also in this episode, we'll give you an update on CPC's activities and consumer feedback. But first, we'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll go straight to the discussions with the DG. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you were with us in the last episode, you would recollect we had with us the Director General, Consumer Protection Council, Mrs. Dupe Atoki. She told us who a consumer is and the mandate of the CPC. Today, she has honored us with her distinguished presence again. Welcome to the program, ma'am.
Thank you, Florence.
We're going to be discussing your rights as a consumer as well as your responsibilities. We'll also be looking at the complaint mechanisms available for you as a consumer here at the CPC. Ma'am, just by way of recap, kindly tell us who a consumer is.
Thank you, Florence, for this opportunity again. A consumer is anyone who pays for a product or for a service. And products are innumerable, and I can just say that for ease of understanding, whatever you can touch, feel, see, hear, it's a product. On the other hand, a service is what you pay for someone to do for you. And again, it can be as simple as taking your clothes to a tailor or a designer to make something out of it for you. It can also be as complex as buying online a ticket to travel.
Okay.
It can be a little less complex than just subscribing to a satellite or cable television, for instance. So those are services that you pay for. So a consumer is either is anyone who has transacted in any of these platforms,
Okay.
either paying for a product or paying for a service.
Okay.
And the Consumer Protection Council, like I did mention last week, is established in the past 15 years to ensure the protection of consumers across board.
Yeah.
And so we are available to ensure that you get value for money, we receive complaints,
And protect the
we
consumers.
protect the consumers. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us in detail the rights of a consumer. We all go shopping from time to time. We engage in some sort of product or service. What rights should I be aware of as a consumer?
That's a great one, and that's where the protection hinges on, to ensure that your rights are protected, and that's why we are here at the Consumer Protection Council. There are a number of rights, but I would walk them through in the order of priority for me. And the first one is the right to redress. As a consumer, if you have spent money to buy a product or to pay for service, you should get value for money straight away. And if you don't get value for money, you should get a redress. And the redress can be in diverse forms. It can be a compensation for a loss. It can be a repair of a product, or it could be a refund of the money that has been paid, or it could be a replacement of the product. So basically, you should be able to get any of these processes of redress when there's a failure on the transaction that you have entered in as a consumer. That's the main one in which I would want consumers to really exercise their right and ensure that at each point in time, when there's a failure of delivery of service or of the product that you have purchased, that you ensure that you get a redress. There is also the right to be informed. You should be able to get the necessary information before you buy a product, which should be available on the product itself or on the service that is being rendered, particularly to ensure that there are no deceptions in the information that is given out, which will not in any way specify the details that are necessary. It behoves on the consumers to check those informations, read the product.
What sort of information should we be looking at?
For instance, you should want to know if you are buying a cosmetic, for instance, you want to know whether it has a best before date or it has an expiry date. You want to know the content. You want to know whether there are certain products or ingredients. You like to know the ingredients of the product. They should be stated there, the date of expiry, the manufacturing date, and the country of origin. If it's the food, you want to know the nutritional value, and those are the information you want. And particularly if you are buying a generator, for instance, you want to know if it's a 15 kVA as it's written on it, which is what you want, as against a 10 kVA. You should look out for all this information in the product to enable you take a decision that what you are buying is exactly what you intend to buy, and that you haven't been deceived into it. You also have the right to be educated about these rights. And
this is a core mandate of CPC.
Yes. Which is, and that's what we are doing now. We are trying to educate the consumers. By our law, we have the mandate to educate consumers, and it's your right to be told what your rights are. You know, if you understand what that means. And so we rely on some advocacy groups sometimes to help us, but basically we are mandated to ensure that consumers know their rights in different forms. And for us, this platform is one of the areas in which we are educating consumers about their rights. They also, as a consumer, you have the right to choose. Where you don't have a right to choose, that's a problem, because you then are stuck with buying the product, good or bad. And that's where competition comes in as well. So the consumer must be given a right to choose or to make a choice, and that means there should be available options in the products that are available. And lastly, I think the consumer also has the right to safety. Any product that constitutes or has a potential to be hazardous must not be put in the market. And it's our duty to ensure that if we find that out, we are allowed to remove them from the market, because all products that are put up for sale must be seen to be